Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today's Tuesday, February 10th, 2015, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Arsenko?
Here.
Mrs. Gatos?
Here.
Dr. Griesbach?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Mr. Clary?
Here.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Little?
Here.
Mr. Dice?
Here.
Mr. Lally?
Here.
Mr. Hugus?
Here.
Mr. Sedlak?
Here.
Mr. Chufo?
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I open up for public comment on agenda items only, we do have an announcement from our deputy mayor, but I just want to say, you all know what's happened this past weekend. I think Chief Cole and I have, if you've watched any of the news, you know what we're doing, at least at this point, and we're taking it very seriously. Please understand that. We truly are. And Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you, if you would.
Yes, Mayor. Well, on behalf of council, first and foremost, we wish the victims well and keep them in our thoughts and prayers. We would like to commend our police department, dispatch center, EMS personnel, Macy's Security, and Forbes Trauma Center for their swift actions. We also thank the 15 outside police agencies that came to our mutual aid and cooperated with us over the weekend. And lastly, this council is determined to do everything it can to support our police department as they work with mall management, its security team, and outside law enforcement agencies as they determine the best course of action to address the situation and the overall safety of our community.
Thank you, Nick. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I will open the floor up for public comment on proposed agenda items only. If you have other issues, we'll open that up at the very end, as we always do. Agenda items only. Seeing none, we'll move over. Ladies and gentlemen, council conducted an executive session for personnel litigation reasons on Monday, February 9th, 2015, beginning at 6:30 p.m. and ending at 8:09 p.m., and also at 6 p.m. prior to tonight's regular council meeting. Council's legislative action, if any, from these two executive sessions shall be taken tonight at the February 10th, 2015 council meeting. Going over to the approval of the minutes, once again, council, any other corrections or additions to the special council meeting of December 19th, 2014, or the regular council meeting of January 13th, 2015? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And moving over to our approval of our reports of our tax collections, once again, council, any additions or corrections? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Payroll report, once again, council, are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And our list of bills and budget transfers, once again, any additions or corrections, council? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Motion. Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
And right now, council, we'll go over to the vacancies on our boards, commissions, and authorities. Any appointments or nominations?
I do.
Please.
I would like to nominate Franny Castell to the Human Needs and Resource Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any others, Linda?
Mayor, I have one.
Sure.
I'd like to nominate Dennis Biondo to the Planning Commission.
I'm sorry, we have to accept his letter of resignation
Okay, well,
first.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we may want to do the letters of resignation prior to this.
It might not be bad.
Yeah, that's.
Yes,
Just so you know, you're only nominating. You're not appointing, but you certainly, it makes sense to do the letters of
Yes,
resignation.
go ahead.
I have two letters of resignation.
Please, let's do
The
letters.
first one would be to accept the resignation from Dennis Biondi from the Human Needs and Resource Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The second one I have is to accept the resignation letter of Richard LaPiccolo from the Monroeville Finance Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And that's the resignations that I have.
Do you have any other appointments or nominations?
No, that's the only nominations I have.
Okay. I would like to nominate Dennis Biondo to the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations?
Yes, I have
please?
an appointment. Would I do the resignations first?
Yes.
I mean, there was a list, I thought that usually we read through them. I believe I have a motion to accept Robert Bell's resignation from the zoning hearing board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Go ahead.
A motion to accept James Rosenthal's resignation from the Civil Service Commission.
Is there a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The
Aye.
ayes have it.
And I'd like to nominate James Rosenthal of the Sixth Ward to the zoning hearing board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Any others, Steve?
That's all I have.
Anybody else have any appointments or
I
nominations?
have a few, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I would like to nominate Kathleen Heberling to the Library Board.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I
Any
would-
others?
Yes, I would like to nominate Antoinette Anglin to the Library Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Any others?
Yes, I would like to appoint Eric Petrus to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Sorry.
Oh,
I got-
I'm sorry.
I'm not quite finished.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you were done. I apologize.
I believe this is an appointment. Marshall Boone to the Monroeville Municipal Authority.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Any others? Paul, I apologize for that.
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Nick, do you have one?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to nominate to the Library Board Pat Kahn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other appointments or nominations? Moving over to the new business, 14-7-C, Andrew Stewart, Monmouth Partners, are they here?
No, that
Okay,
that
so-
application's tabled.
Tabled.
Well, but I wanted to get it out there, if you would.
Mayor, that's going to be held up for a while. They got to go back through the zoning hearing board. Probably won't see that until April.
Well, do we have to do these individually?
So, Paul, what you're saying is 1 through 4 are going to be tabled?
Correct.
So the motion should read that you're going to make a motion to table these matters until such time as the zoning hearing board is disposed of this
We
case.
can do 1 through 4?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Caleri?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And moving over to 14-6-SUB, Joshua and Jason Strom, are they here?
This is also being tabled?
No, this
No.
is.
No.
this is
If
for
you'll
your
come on
approval.
up, sir. If you'll explain your,
State your name, sir.
sign in and state your name for the record. Thank you, Sharon. Go over that.
This is your subdivision. If you want to explain it, I'll line
Oh boy, I was called last minute here. The guy representing me got sick, so he just said I was going to show up. We're just, I guess.
Sorry, sir, what's your name?
My name's Jason Sturm. He had told me it was approved. Or
We're going to pitch in for you here a second.
Oh,
You want to
sure.
give us a rundown?
Yeah. Sorry. That's okay.
It'll be fine.
But keep smiling. Got to smile.
Council, this is a basic subdivision of the property, and what's unique about this is this property not only is in Westmoreland County, it's in Allegheny County, and it's also in, I guess, Penn Trafford.
Very complicated.
In Monroeville, and it's divided by the railroad tracks and actually Abers Creek. The only reason you're approving this is because they're actually subdividing the portion within Allegheny County, and Kay Pierce is requiring us to record this. It's the only reason you're here tonight, so.
So what is this, just a lot line reserve?
It's a subdivision of the property located on the Allegheny.
One lot to two lots?
One lot to two lots.
Okay, so it's a simple
Simple
subdivision.
subdivision.
You're still smiling, right?
I'm smelling.
Motion on the
Motion to
floor.
approve it.
Second.
Questions or comments, council?
Yeah, Mark, where approximately is the property?
This is at the end of Tyrolia Drive in Abers Creek, or Alpine Village.
Okay, on
it
that
starts
end of
at-
it.
Yeah,
I-
the majority of the properties in Westmoreland County, they're subdividing it, building two structures over
Very
there.
good.
And it's crossing over the railroad tracks in Abers Creek and the Allegheny Monroeville portion of the property, so.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Good luck with your
Good luck, young fella.
Good luck.
Thank you very
Luck.
much.
Mr. Little, on B on motions, if you would.
Okay, item number one under motions is a motion to place a quarter-page advertisement in the amount of $150 in the program for the Gateway High School musical West Side Story.
Mr. Little, that's a full page ad.
Yes, that's
For
a full page.
$150.
Oh, that's, okay, that's a full page.
amount's
That's
right.
it. The amount's right, but a full page, all right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Okay, items 2 through 5, we have already done on motions on resignations from boards and commissions. Item number 6 is a motion to donate an out-of-service police vehicle to the Turtle Creek Valley COG for their building inspection program.
Motion.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Questions or
Yeah,
comments?
would you care to explain that just a little bit for everybody so they understand what we're
Yeah,
doing?
the Turtle Creek Valley COG is developing a program of a consortium to have a building inspector or a part-time building inspector with, so far, they have 3 municipalities that would share a building inspector, and they need a vehicle. And I brought this up to council at the work session on this Thursday and mentioned to them if they would be willing to donate a vehicle or sell it for whatever its Blue Book value is, and they've decided to donate it to the Turtle Creek Valley COG. It's an old police vehicle. We're taking out of service. When the new ones come in, it has probably 100,000 miles on it, but it would be great use to the Turtle Creek Valley COG.
I believe there is a motion.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please. Thank you.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Little.
Okay, item number 7, a motion to engage the services of the workforce on an as-needed basis for work and non-work injury management of employees for $66 per hour.
Motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? One more time, a very brief Reader's Digest.
Okay, this is a consulting company that Monroeville had engaged up until 2010, but discontinued their services. And as the motion states, it's for the management of those employees who are on, for instance, workers' compensation and short-term disability, to make sure that they are going to their doctor's office visits and make sure they're doing their rehab, if that's the case, because the ultimate goal here is to get the people back to work as soon as possible, provided that their doctors say they can come back to work, and even on a reduced kind of some kind of duties that they normally don't do, light duty policy, thank you. light-duty policy that they could be doing, if, for instance, in the Public Works Office, doing clerical work or something of that nature, that they're not digging ditches, but at least they can be back at work.
Questions or comments, council? Seeing none, roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Little.
Okay, item number 8 concerns a new piece of legislation that came out of Harrisburg in November. This is part of it. It's a motion to appoint a deputy tax collector who shall collect and settle taxes during any incapacitation of the tax collector. The deputy tax collector shall collect and settle taxes for the duration of the tax collector's incapacitation unless the taxing district determines action is necessary under Section 4.2 or 4.4 of the Tax Collection Act of 1945.
Motion on the floor.
So just so it's right, you're not making the appointment. You're approving the appointment by Pat. It's the tax collector that makes the appointment, and council is asked to approve it. So the proper motion should be to approve the appointment as per Mr. Fulkerson.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments, council?
I have one of
Sure.
Mr. Dice, just to explain it a little better. And this person, should the tax collector be incapacitated, God forbid for health reasons or anything like that, would only be temporary.
Maybe for a day or two, or a week. Yeah, that's correct.
And Mr. Fulkerson has made a recommendation to us as a council as to who he is nominating for this current position under this new act
He's made an
Already.
appointment, yes.
on Thursday. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call. Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Moving over to resolutions, and then, as everybody knows, on our first resolution, that has already been addressed, so if you'll address the second one.
Well,
Mr.
No, that one hasn't been
No, the
addressed.
first one.
This is a resolution, number one is this is a tabling, we're looking for a tabling of the planning module for the Mon Malt Partners Panda Express. This is in conjunction with the other 4 that council just tabled, but this is the planning module.
Just so I understand, why would we have to table this now when we didn't approve any of these others?
See, that's a good.
Well, it's just on the agenda.
I know,
Or ask
it's
for a tablet.
just so you know, the mayor's half right, but go ahead and make the motion to table.
Motion
what
to
you
table.
wanted to-
Second.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I understand.
Okay.
Questions or comments? Seeing none? Sharon, roll call.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Little.
Number 2 is a resolution confirming the municipality of Monroeville has formally requested a Community Infrastructure and Tourism Fund, CITF grant, as designated an official to perform the required duties between the applicant and the Redevelopment Authority of Allegheny County, has authorized the execution and delivery of any and all agreements between the applicant and the Redevelopment Authority, and has assured, where applicable, the provision of the local matching funds, and will comply with all other provisions of the application.
Motion on the floor.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Paul, you want to maybe do a Reader's Digest on that? Or Tim, one of you?
Sure. As we talked about on Thursday, we have designated a section of storm sewer in the Garden City area that is to a point where it needs to be rehabilitated. It's a very expensive adventure. This grant opportunity came about, so we're applying for it.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Paul. Questions or
Welcome.
comments, council? Roll call. Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Clary?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Little, if you would.
Yeah, on item number 3, Paul, if you could maybe give a Reader's
Let's
Digest
get the
version.
motion on, read it in, and I'll get the motion in a
Yes,
second,
sir.
please.
Resolution authorizing a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the Green Light Go program for the Northern Pike and West Patty Lane traffic signal project.
Motion on the floor.
Motion approved.
Second.
Paul, again, if you would, please.
Sure. PennDOT instituted a grant program, that has a 50/50 matching program. One of the criteria is that it has to be along a state-owned roadway system. Again, looking at the capital improvements, one of the signals that's in getting to be to a point of replacement is on West Patty Lane at Northern Pike. So that's what we're applying for. Again, it's a grant application. We'll see what happens.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mr. Caleri?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Little. We'll move over to reports of our municipal staff. And Bruce, do you have anything else for us?
I do not.
And Tim, if you would.
Yeah, I have one item concerning the consent agenda, just keeping with protocol. Our Thursday night meetings are called the agenda setting meeting, and therefore setting the agenda for the upcoming council meeting, which is this one right now. And this is more so for my secretary, Dara, and this is for council and even for the public. More so appointments of boards, authorities, and commissions. If we can get all the resignations, if anybody wants to be appointed, anything dealing with anything that's going to be approved for the Tuesday night council meeting, if we can all get that in here, and that's what's supposed to go on for the consent agenda. The agenda theoretically is supposed to be set then. Now, I'm not here to say that there aren't exceptions. Of course there are. I mean, if we have somebody resigns from a board or commission, or if there's also some kind of an emergency, not emergency, but a resolution that something was missed, then yeah, we have to get it on the agenda if it's a time-sensitive issue. But by and large, we should have everything on the, talking about it at the agenda meeting, the agenda-setting meeting on Thursday. So I'm just asking for that request to make things go a little bit more smoothly.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Paul, any other things for us?
I'm good.
Sean?
No, sir.
Okay, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I open up for public comment on any municipal items, so if you'd like to come on up and address us, please sign in, state your name for the record. You do not have to give your address. Ladies and gentlemen, one real quick. We're going to, since nobody came up on public comment on municipal items, Mr. Shufo, I know that you have, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Mr. Shufo, you said there's something you need to address.
Just with the meeting I attended for the Marcellus Shale gas exploration out in Penn Township, there are 2 wells proposed. One would be located, it's a Deutsch well. It's located at the bottom of Saunders Station Road. The reason I'm bringing this up into this council chamber is that well is going to border the municipality of Monroeville, and potentially one of those spikes generated from that 1,000-foot gas well could potentially go into Monroeville and maybe underneath the Bel Air pool. So there are a lot of issues concerning the hydraulic fracking and how many trucks it takes to bring in the water to do the fracking. At this point in time, I'm still working with the Penn Township supervisors and the Director of Community Development, and we're going over, the application has been submitted to the state, but it has not been officially submitted to Penn Trafford. As soon as that's submitted, I'll have a little bit better idea on what the well site's going to be looking like. And there's also another well site off of 130, 993 over by the Killbrook Drive area. That potentially could have an impact on Monroeville too. So I'll keep you informed as this application progresses to a local level.
Council, any comments or?
Mark,
Thank
you mentioned that the application was submitted to the state. Was it approved?
It has been approved by the state. They are working out some additional issues. Right now, the state mandates that the drilling well has to be 500 feet from adjoining property line. Penn Township has stated that they wanted 600 feet, so there's an inconsistency there. They're trying to work that out. And there's some other issues that they're trying to resolve in the interim until that application gets down to Penn Trafford. But as far as the state, it has been submitted and approved by the state.
And the 500 feet, that's due to Act 13? Is that
Correct.
the
That is correct.
setback? Okay.
That's the state mandate for the setback. Municipalities were granted authorization to increase that setback if they choose to do so. So Penn Trafford has increased it to 600, and there's some negotiating back and forth as to whether that'll be reduced to the 500, inconsistent with the state regulation.
And if a community can increase that setback, is there a max setback?
Actually, there are different setbacks for different areas within Allegheny County. Some of them are 750 feet, some of them are 1,000. It all depends on what this council feels would be necessary setback for it. Now, that's just for the well site. That doesn't include any of your condenser units or anything like that, compressor units that are associated.
So it's really just the
with gas.
center, the actual center of the
Just
whole
to
operation?
give you an idea, if you were to look straight across the street, right where the parking lot begins at 1 Monroeville Center, that's where that gas well would be compared to this council chambers right now. So if you want to look out there and see a gas well, then that's how close it would be if you had property abutting that gas well. And
That's awfully
again,
close.
It is, and it doesn't include your compressor stations and things like that.
Mark, how would this impact the swimming pool?
I talked to Mr. Estock today as to whether the municipality has the gas, oil, and mineral rights underneath the Bel Air pool. Hasn't got back to me yet. As soon as we find that out, there's potential we could benefit from this. If one of those spikes should go in our direction, they're drilling down 7,000 feet, and then they're going to go out a mile. So whether that's,
In which direction?
well,
North, east,
they
south?
can go in all directions, depending on where that gas they feel is, the beneficiary to that well. It can go as
Will it
many-
have a health impact on that swimming pool?
Well, I mean, depending on who you hear from, and there was probably 30 speakers at the meeting on Thursday night in Penn Trafford, and you have both sides of the story. I know the state and the federal government is working hard to try to control the adverse effects for water, air quality, the truck noise, the impact on the roads. I don't want to say it would, and I don't want to say it wouldn't. Let's let the facts speak for themselves.
Would the truck traffic impact Monroeville roads?
Not locally unless they would use Abers Creek Road. Basically, that would be all state roads. You would come, depending on where they're going to get their frack water from, but Saunders Station is a county road, Haymaker is a county road, Moss Eye Boulevard is a state road, and the Turnpike. So getting in that direction to get the trucks down to that well at the bottom of Saunders Station would only impact county roads. The Dracolic well over on 130, that's all state roads too. You'd 48 down to 130 to 903 and back on 130 again. So basically, it will be all state roads.
Thank you.
There are provisions in the state requirements that allow for impact fees to be associated with the wells that they would have to pay. So any roads that are deteriorated as a result of these heavy trucks traveling, there are fees that we can use to redevelop the roadways back to their normal
Thank you.
condition.
None of them would use Abers Creek Road.
No, I doubt it, Steve. Yeah,
We'd have to make sure they wouldn't. That would
Right.
deteriorate in a heartbeat.
I agree with you.
However, even though Saunders Station Road is a county road.
Correct.
There still would be definitely a large amount of truck traffic traveling up that road.
Correct.
So even though it's not our road, I mean, it's
The county
in our
also-
boundaries, I mean, it would,
The county also
affecting our
benefits from the
residents.
impact fees, too. They're filtered down to the county and the local governments.
okay.
Mr. Dice has something for our listening audience and those on TV.
The mayor asked me, what can we do here as a municipality? And I want you to know, our hands are largely tied by virtue of the state preemption of all of this. However, there are certain things we're able to do. But again, this isn't like a normal application for development in your community. So just be careful where you go with it, that's all.
I know the Penn Trafford administration has taken a due diligence stand. They've contacted air quality professionals, water quality professionals, and they're trying to get all this information up front to see how these wells are actually going to impact Penn Township. So they have a large overlay district. Keep in mind, too, Penn Township is mostly rural. It's a lot of farm area. They have the areas to develop into gas wells without adversely affecting neighboring property. Monroeville's a little bit tighter, not saying that we can't have them here, but I think they would look to us last because we're so tight in our development.
Thank you, Mark. Now we'll move over to our reports of our officials, and Tom, we'll start off with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you, Chief. Thank you, police officers. Thank you, EMS people. Thank you, municipal aid people. Thank you, emergency people. Thank you, Forbes Hospital, for doing what you did to take care of the victims. And I know the chief and the mayor are working hard with them all to correct this problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
I'd like to thank Dr. Griesbach for speaking on our behalfs in regards to the incident. And our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. And that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for speaking for all of us. And I just wanted to throw out there that this is more than a governmental, this is more than a legislative issue, this is a community issue. We're all looking at it very seriously, but as a community, we all need to come together and also look at this very seriously. And if we work together, that's how problems like this are solved. That's all I have for tonight.
Mary, I have a couple of things. One is the Monroeville Convention Center that I did on Thursday, but for those of you that didn't hear, the Train and Toy Show is going on the 14th and 15th of February. Steel City Kitties, same dates, the 14th and the 15th. The Allegheny Sports Show is Wednesday, February 18th through the 22nd. Tri-State Fueling Expo is February 24th through the 26th. The Fire Rescue EMS Expo is February 28th and March 1st. And the Golf Show, March 13th through the 15th. That's what's going on at the Convention Center. And just briefly, you know, there's already been some talk about what happened at the mall here tonight. I just wanted to take a brief moment and ask that we all continue to send our prayers and best wishes to the victims of the shooting. Please know that we as a community will overcome this and continue to make this a wonderful place to live and work. We must not lose sight of the fact that Monroeville is a great place to be, and we're going to be working over the weeks and months ahead to ensure it remains just that.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, Mayor. Just a couple things in case the residents missed it on the Thursday night meeting. We're all concerned about the budget, especially the remainder of this year and going into 2016. I've always been a believer that we're never going to fix a problem that happened over many years overnight. But some of the things that council and our staff has done recently is starting to chip away at the problem. And they got a grant approved for 800 feet of sewer line in Garden City. We approved replacing many of the street lights with LED lights, which would lower our electric bill. We got a state 50/50 grant for replacing the traffic signal at Turnpike Gardens, which could have ended up costing us a lot of money. It's still going to be a lot of money, but it's only going to be 50% of it. I think that the hiring the workforce back to keep track of our employees and help get them back to work is going to save money in the long run. And so it's going in the right direction, I believe. There's not going to be any one thing that suddenly turns the page and fixes the problem. We just have to work at this like we've been doing. The tax collector's office has been collecting back taxes, the new person that we put over there. So it's people are working on it, and I want the public to know that. We're working on it, and we have a whole, two-thirds, three-quarters of a year to go here yet, and we're going to continue to work on it. And that being said, I couldn't reiterate, I don't think I could say anything better than Deputy Mayor and Mr. Johns just said. I have always been proud of this community. I've been here all my life. A very tragic incident happened. It could happen anywhere at any time. The only thing we can do is support everybody that was involved and continue to support Monroeville. It is a great place to live, Mr. Johns, and I hope everybody continues to support it.
Thank you, Ron. Nick?
Yes, Mayor, my comments were at the beginning of the meeting. However, I would just like to add that kind of what's being mentioned is that, Monroeville's a good town with good people in it, and we all need to work very hard to keep it that way. That's all I have for this evening, Mayor.
I would like to thank Dr. Griesbach for his words that came from us as a council of whole. And of course, all of our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. And everyone, please remember, we've stated it many times, Monroeville's a community. It's a home to us as well. And we are all part of everything that's going on. Let's stick together and we'll get through this. That's all I have.
Thank you. Obviously, you all know I've had enough to say over the last 3 days, so I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night, ladies and gentlemen.